All right, so let's say that you didn't find something in the user stories that are already there, so you need to create something from scratch. Okay, the first thing that we need to do for our title, that's going to be the user story of kind of our criteria for completion. So user, let's say we're dealing with movement. User is able to move the player by touch screen. Okay, and then we're going to go in, we can edit the card. So we want to, this card deals with user movement in all four cardinal directions. Okay, now how you guys are kind of breaking up your cards, it may be a little bit different. This feature may or may not deal with graphics as well. So if we are just dealing with, let's say, box 2D bodies and just actually getting them to physically move in the directions that we want, and we're adding graphics later, that actually isn't a bad idea because you're staying in one coding area while you're working on this. So this is only dealing with the physical movement and not graphical notation. Okay, so we have a description. Now let's go ahead and we add a checklist of things that we know that we have to do. Okay, again, you could look at the user stories to get an idea. You could copy stuff from other ones that you already looked at. So we go ahead and we click add. User is able to move player up. User is able to move player down. Move player left. User is able to move player right. Okay. So we could have attacks actually be a different implementation because it is kind of a different feature. We could have our items changed. You know, let's say that as we're doing it, looking at our game design document, we don't want to implement touchscreen at the start. We just want to get him to kind of move. That is okay to kind of have it working up in steps and then coming back to the code and adjusting it. So if this is by touchscreen, we're focusing on just getting them to move in those directions of the touch point. And maybe we add another one. User is able to have player stop at touch point. Okay. So now we have all this criteria for stuff that we want to do, and we want this to be for our next sprint. So let's say we're on sprint 2. So milestone 2. Go ahead and close. Now that's titled correctly. We have our checklist items of stuff that we need to do. We're going to go ahead and let's say that we're in that sprint. We're going to move it to our current sprint. We're going to drag it in. So now we have that currency issue that we have to deal with. We have our milestone 2 items that we have to have. I'm just doing one just for expediency, but you are going to have more items in there. So we are working through our week. We fix that currency issue. We attach a screencast YouTube video. We can just paste a link in here showing that you have addressed that bug issue, and you could go ahead and move that to the peer review. They say it's okay, you go ahead and move that into the review for me. I'm going to look at your code base and I'm going to look at your code. So that could be your YouTube link of whatever the issue is. You could write comments showing it, explaining it. screencast would be really the best and fastest way to do things. So you attach that, you go ahead and have someone look at it. They say, yeah, that looks good. That looks like you addressed it. You move it in the review. Okay, now we're on our other milestone 2 piece. As the week is progressing, we're able to move up and down. We're able to move left and right. We're 80% done, yet we weren't able to get them to move and stop at that exact touch point, maybe because we were using velocities and didn't deal with them actually stopping. So at the end of the week, or at the end of our sprint, we're most of the way done. Maybe we might want to actually make this, we identify that this already should be another item that we could add. You talk to me about it and say, hey, Mr. Walters, I got all these movements, but this stopping at a touch point, that's really actually a much bigger thing. I want to make this another card itself, and I give you the go-ahead. You could go ahead and click and convert this to a card. That would remove it from this one so it's not polluting it up, and you can move your list now down to check peers, and then this is a new card. Maybe that's going to be put in your backlog. You're adjusting your game design document a little bit. So what Trello is basically doing is becoming like a living game design document. So we want him to stop at touch point. So let's say that that's going to be milestone 3. And then we put more of a description of what we need to do. Player needs to decelerate and stop within, and identify your parameters, a specific distance from the touch of the user. Okay, we could go ahead and add our own checklist in here. Player begins to slow down when getting close to the touch point. Player stops within, let's say, if we're dealing in meters, 1 meter to the target area. Okay. And so now we have some checkpoints and stuff that we can start going for, because we realized that that actually didn't fit very good into that milestone. And as you start doing this, you'll see where it's better to break things up. Okay. Using the user stories that are already created are helpful, but you're going to need to customize to your game. So they're there as a guideline, but should not be where you're just copying all the cards and then just moving them. For your game design document, some of those may actually not fit, or you may start overscaling your game and you're not able to finish in time. Okay, so you want to keep stuff focused on what you're trying to do. Keep it not too complex. So now we have this, our peer checked over that with the just moving up, down, left, and right. Says it looks good, moves it over. I'm already aware of your additional added item. Just gave the OK for creating a separate card for stopping on touch point. I probably will still want to link this card, so I'm going to copy it because you created it and link it to the original card. So we're going to attach this one, and we want to connect both of the cards. So you and I both know that these cards are related, even though Now they're basically like two separate cards. So this one, I can still get to your touch point that you've created a new card for. From either location, I could get back to the original card. Okay, so even if this is moved, and we say that those are all done, as you're moving this, this becomes its own separate card. You're tracking its progress as you're moving. You're moving your stuff over. It gets to review. I will move it over to done. Okay? All right.